Boys, we are back. Welcome to another episode of the Squad Talk FPL Podcast. Already, I'm told, the internet's most popular Florian Wirtz truther podcast, and we are not stopping there. I'm your host, Nick Boonstra, 10-year veteran of the FPL Wars, proud Bostonian, slightly ashamed West Ham fan, and excited that you are with us today. If you're new to the podcast, I just want to start by saying make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening, whether you're watching us on YouTube or you're over on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Make sure you hit subscribe, follow, do what you got to do to make sure you don't miss an episode, because we are going to be here all season long. And if you're new to FPL, welcome. I'm so glad that you've decided to join the web's most popular sports-themed cardiac event simulator. It's never too late to join. Gameweek 1 did just pass us by, but it is always, as Mohandas Gandhi said himself, the best time to add Erling Haaland to your squad was 20 years ago, but the second best time is right the hell now. So I'm glad that you're on board. Glad to have you with us this week. In today's episode, we're going to be breaking down the week that was, both on and off the field, telling you a little bit about my life, looking into how my team did in FPL, and then looking ahead into game week 2. So let's jump right into it. Here at Squad Talk FPL, we are all about winning the week, again, both on the pitch and off of it. So how was my week? It's interesting. It's always interesting. It is cooler. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see I'm going for the layered hoodie look this week. It's really not that. It hasn't cooled down that dramatically. I guess I'm just feeling like representing my Boston University, my 1 year that I spent at BU. I just feel like repping that today. I don't know, and somewhat pretending like it's fall. I'm so ready for fall, guys. As a New Englander, summer's all right, but again, this year's been brutal. I don't know. I want my pumpkin spice. I want my crisp air. I'm so ready for it. I did realize it's recording this Wednesday morning. I am again late. We're gonna get this out one way or another. I'm a little later than I want to be, but I'm still coffeeed up here. I'm realizing that the coffee beans to water ratio that I've been using for like the last I don't know how many months has been way off. Like to the point where it's like, oh gee, I wonder why my stomach hurts every single morning and I don't have an appetite. And then I read the label on like the coffee pack and it's like, oh, I'm only supposed to use this much coffee to water. Yeah, I was way overdoing it. And so I make a batch this morning closer to the recommended whatever. And it not only tastes better, it's not hurting my body. So God bless for that. It was an interesting week. Yeah, being a Lyft driver in Boston is always fun, is always an experience. I will say I am so glad to have FPL back. Friday was just like a frustrating day. I don't even know why. Like just try driving around Boston for a little bit. Try navigating Logan Airport, even when you've been doing it for months and months. Like just every now and then one day is going to come up where you're just pissed at like the roads and the other drivers on the roads and just the whole shebang. So Friday comes along and long story short, if you've never flown into Boston, do come. It's lovely. We'd love to have you. But the airport is not, as most airports are, the airport is not designed to help people navigate it successfully. So the terminals A, B, C, and E, we can't count to 5, all have like obviously their own curbside pickup, but the rideshare drivers like us can't go right up to the curb because the stadies get really mad at us, and I can confirm that firsthand. So there's like separate rideshare drop-off and pickup areas. And a lot of people don't know this if it's their first time coming into Boston, and people can have a hard time. Sometimes the app will give you the option to choose curbside. I don't know when it gives riders that option, and I don't know when I'm supposed to. So I'm waiting in the lot, which is just its own life experience. Waiting to get a pickup. I get this one that's going out. I try to wait for the longer rides if I can, and I get one that looks good. So I'm like, okay. And it was a curbside pickup, like indicated in the app, go to the curb. And I'm like, I've just got to the point where I'm like, I'm going to call ahead just so I can like be sure. Like if I can't reach this guy, I'm going to do what the app tells me to do. But I do want to try to reach this guy to see if what he wants me to do is what the app is telling me to do. So I call him I call him once, it just goes to like the do not disturb, hang up. I'm like, okay, call him a second time. He picks up, hello, can't hear me, hangs up. So I'm like, Jesus Christ, like let's just go to the terminal. I get there, I mark myself arrived, and as I'm there, then he sends me a message, hey, we're in the garage and I'm like, Jesus, like what are we doing, man? So I'm like, okay, so I call him again, kind of pissed. And it was Terminal E. Anyway, I thought I could loop back into the airport from where I was. I ended up leaving the airport, having to turn all the way around and then come back in. So it was, and then there's like the traffic around the airport to do that. So it was just a nightmare. We end up getting there, and I love the fact that as many things as the new Premier League app is getting wrong, I love that you can listen to the games right in the app, that I don't need to download any BBC, TalkSport, anything, and then get hit with the, like, this game is not available in your area. Like, it's just in the app. I can listen. I should have had it just in the earbud and put the radio on, but I had it on my Bluetooth. I had the game on the radio. And I get to there, and it's this guy, it's this dad and his wife and like two kids. So I'm like, what, you know what? I'm over it. I'm like, the common decent thing to do would be to put on music and not subject these people to the radio coverage of Liverpool versus Bournemouth on a fucking Friday afternoon in Boston. But I'm like, I just can't be arsed, as my British friends would say. So I'm like, all right, let's just, and he ended up tipping, like a day later. So I'm like, all right, we'll take that. I guess he wasn't too mad. But I'm just like, we're leaving the airport. We're hitting all the traffic to actually get going to where he's going. And I'm just like boiling. I'm just quietly seething just from the day, just from the experience of existing in this life. I was like, all right, I'm kind of over it. And when I tell you, like, the level of just melt away, the satisfaction and joy that it quietly brought me when Mo Salah scored that goal, I was like, okay. Because, like, Ekitike went off, you know what I mean? My Evan Nilsson didn't do anything for Bournemouth, so it just was like a dead game and not the way I wanted the season to start. And when Mo Salah scored that, I just, like, the quiet little fist bump to the point where the game ends and the dad is like, "Oh, are you a Liverpool fan?" And I'm like, "Oh God!" And I'm like, "No, actually, just a fantasy player. That's all it is. It's just my little addiction, obsession, podcast, whatever. That's all it is. Don't worry too much about it, boss." So it ended up being all right, and of course the rest of the day goes on and ends up pissing me off again, because why not? So it's always an experience. I'm even running a little later today than I would like to, so we may speed run this episode a little bit. But yeah, just FPL's back. Mo Salah is back to scoring goals. Erling Haaland is back to scoring goals, as we will see. Life is good, so I'm happy for that. Yeah, overall been a decent week, ups and downs. I'm again still waking up at a decent time in the morning, so I'm feeling good about that. Had an interesting experience with an old friend, a girl that I was texting, and figuring things out there. Live and learn through everything. So yeah, I'll say we won the week. I'll say it was a good week. Positive, thumbs up, arrows up on this week. Our lesson for the week is focused on patience. It's not really anything super insightful, new, nothing you've never heard of before. And to be fair, there are a lot of people in the FPL space, podcasts, Twitter accounts, things like that, that are stressing this. So I'm glad that this is something that a lot of people are talking about, but something that I want to just impart to you as, again, maybe you're brand new to FPL. I am seeing a lot of people. It almost feels like more than usual. Again, maybe I just wasn't paying attention the same way. Maybe it's because I've been out of FPL for a little while and now I'm coming back into it. It feels like the knee jerk, the trigger happy, the oh my God of it all after game week 1 is just stronger than ever. Tijani Reinders goes off in one game for Man City, and all of a sudden, the whole entire world needs to bring him in. So let's even bring this up here. I've already got it open up. If you go into the stats page on the FPL website, you can sort by a whole bunch of different sorts of stats, all of them useful depending on what you're looking for and what you're thinking about. It's good to have this page outside of the transfer space so you can just take a look and see how things look. I'm going to look at who people are transferring in and transferring out now again. So this is right now 10 a.m. Eastern Time, Wednesday morning. And as of right now, Tijani Reinders has already gotten a price bump. Already so many people have brought him in that his price has gone up. Tijani Reinders has been brought in by 738,479 FPL managers. That, my friends, is a lot. I guess not a whole lot when you consider the fact that there are literally millions of people. I was just here and, I was listening to FPL Focal before this, had a good video breaking down his game week 1 and looking at a few other people's teams. And, hearing him talk about like a tough game week 1 could put you at a rank of like 9 million. So there's a lot of people who play this game. Let's be clear. It's and there are a lot of people who played game week 1 and who are just going to drop it. We're here for the long haul, baby. FPL is not a game for us. This is a way of life. We are committed, not because we want to, not because we chose it, but because it chose us. All right. There's no quitting football. There's no leaving FPL. So in the grand scheme of things like that, Tijani Reinders getting, $750,000 transfers in maybe isn't too crazy. But just when you look at the engagement levels and the active managers, it's a lot. And a lot of people scrambling after that one performance to say, oh my God, I need this guy in my team. Right behind him, Semenyo, who had 2 goals, Ekitike for Liverpool, who did well, Chris Wood, who's just, always going to be Chris Wood and amazing. Even Dan fucking Ballard, dude, like one good game against, I'll admit it, a shit West Ham team, you know what I mean? And the whole world is like, oh my God, this guy scored a header and kept a clean sheet for a promoted team. Like all reason and all logic just flies out the window and people are like, I need this guy in my team. And if we look in the same direction going transfers out, the same idea looking at transfers out, Florian Wirtz, one, poor game week and he's already gone. Guardiola, Konsa, Isak, those make sense. Spoiler alert, I have already transferred Konsa out of my team after the red card that he picked up. Joao Pedro gets a blank. He's gone. Bowen, Frimpong, Marmouche, Palmer, like these guys all being at the top of the list for transfers out on the game week. Listen, if you're new to FPL, take a deep breath. Take a breather. Take a minute. Don't rush into bringing people in, sending people out. Ideally, and everyone says this, you picked the players in your team for a reason. You believed in them. You had a good feeling about them. You had an idea. And ideally, you built your team for the long haul. Like I'm not, rank 1, game week 1 here, but I had a decent enough week and I feel strongly about the fixtures coming up for the players that I've already picked from the start to succeed. You know what I mean? I don't know if that was an English sentence, but like, I picked players to keep them in my team for an extended period of time, not only for the fact that, like, obviously transfers penalize you if you make too many of them in a given week, but just FPL is played over 38 game weeks, starting in August, ending in May. It's a long season. It's a long time. And to be fair, it's a long week, coming off of a bad game week, coming off of a 30-pointer, where 10 out of the 11 players in your team blanked and one of your bench players went off. It's a hard feeling. It's not pleasant. It's not fun. And it's different from other games in the sense that, like, if I have a bad chess game, just laying in bed, getting ready to fall asleep, and I'm just kind of playing 3-minute games or 10-minute games, if I just shit the bed, and hang mate in 1 against like a guy 200 points worse than me, I can rage queue and play another game. You know what I mean? Like it's immediately available. It's right there. I can instantly go in, play again, and feel like I can make up for, redeem, whatever, or improve on what I missed with any, Call of Duty, whatever, FIFA, Rocket League. You can jump immediately right back in. Even me and my Ballatrope session, if I get to, the boss blind of Ante 1 and just completely fall apart, I can just start right over, you know what I mean? And I can do it again. FPL, by design, you can't do that. You have to sit on it. You have to wait. You have to just sit with and to be fair, there may be some human fortitude strengthening that comes from that. It might be good for us to have to live with that in that sort of sense, but you're unable to rerun it. You can't go back in. You have to wait a whole week. If it's an international break, maybe 2 weeks, or longer, depending on what's going on, before anything can really happen. And so that can lead to, well, if I tinker, like, it feels like I'm doing something. And like tinkering, it's easy to start with, oh, well, I'm just going to go in to FPL Review or some of these other tools. And I do want to make a video at some point focusing on FPL tools and how to use them. But if you're jumping into some of these FPL tools, it could just start with, I'm not going to make any transfers. I'm just going to look at, like, okay, what are the fixtures coming up? And what if I did do this? And if I transfer this guy this week and then roll it next week, how does it look for the week after? And like, oh, well, what if I used a wild card? Or what if I just free hit? You know what I mean? And after a while, spending that time just kind of tiny tinkering can turn into, oh my God, well, it's only Thursday and I've made 3 transfers. It's for a -8. And then one of those guys ends up, being injured and not starting on the week. You know what I mean? So it's a hard thing to be as patient as FPL sort of requires you to be. It's hard to come off of a poor game week or even a good game week and see a player that you're going to want and say, I'm just going to wait until, again, Friday to make my transfer. I'm going to trust the process that I used in preseason and all the game weeks leading up to today to get me here. I'm going to trust that I know what I'm doing well enough to just sit on my hands, eat the, again, negative feeling of whatever, having a bad week, benching a guy, missing out on a guy. And again, I've had some bad ones. One of my career highlights was benching Jamie Vardy when Leicester beat Southampton 9-0. I swear to God, I got out of work that day and checked my phone to see, and I was livid. Like, I had to take like a long walk out of the office. It helped that I didn't live too far. I was in college at the time, and it really wasn't too far from where I worked. Like, I was already within walking distance, but I had to walk like the other way, super roundabout long way home, fuming. Like, I just like mad. Like, I don't want to say it was like yelling, but like very, very angry, very, very upset that I benched JB Vardy for, it was like a 24-point haul. This was years ago, and I'm still there. You know what I mean? The PTSD, whatever. I'm still stuck in that moment. So now, as we'll see, there are going to be situations where it's going to make sense to make transfers. I've already made mine. We'll look at that in a minute. But patience is a virtue, and in FPL doubly so. It's just worth sitting on it, looking at it, eating the sadness and saying, all right, I can't go again until next week, but we go again. We will be there. And that's part of the fun, and that's part of the experience. And listen, any FPL manager on Twitter is going to understand, you know what I mean? Again, it's a good community. People have a lot to say about Twitter. I have a lot to say about Twitter, but it does feel like, as far as I can tell, FPLdom might be one of the last good places on there. So yeah, listen, if you didn't have Reinders game week 1, yes, he's a 5.5 now, 5.6. Looks like a phenomenal asset. I'm still skeptical just with the whole pep roulette and the minutes. Again, FPL Focal did have a good video, I believe just earlier today as I'm recording this Wednesday morning, breaking down how often Reinders, mentioning how often Reinders would play 90 minutes, even going back to his time in Italy's Serie A before coming to the Premier League here. So who knows? Again, my whole rule about like don't trust players that are new to the league stands. It's one of the reasons I didn't even have him on my radar going into game week 1. I still want to give it a little bit of time. Same for Ekitike here. Again, phenomenal game week 1. We'll see what happens if Isak comes in and if that changes things at all. Who knows what's going to happen with Isak, man. Semenyo and Wood, they've been around. Chris Wood especially. It's hard to go wrong with him. He's also had a price rise just given all the volume of managers that have brought him in so far. Don't think there have been any price drops yet. No one's fallen in price yet. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone does go down before the deadline here. But no, I mean, Chris Wood is a good option. Semenyo is a good option. And not like Reinders and Ekitike aren't either. So maybe this is the best example. Even Holland, has had a whole lot of people bring him in. Now, that's obviously a tough one because he's, 14 million. Pretty sure the most expensive guy in the game. I don't think Salah might have been 14.5 off the top of my head. I don't remember. No, certainly no other strikers, no other forwards are anywhere near 14 million. So if you are bringing Holland in this week, I don't think there's any way you could be doing that without taking a hit, unless you left an ungodly amount of money in your bank and you just had all 5 million assets going into game week 1, which I doubt you did. Like, obviously, Holland, in my opinion, best player in the game. Certainly one of them. I was my captain game week 1, and I feel great about it. I'm super happy that I have him. And yes, I'm going to flaunt that and gloat that as you should when your picks hit. But if you didn't have him, like the amount of configuration, the penalties that you're going to get to try to get him in your team, no matter how good, you know what I mean, you think he's, unless you think he's going to just bag hat tricks the rest of the way and he's going to be your captain, then maybe. But even for a guy like Erling Haaland, it might be worthwhile to just wait, be patient, unless you got like an injury, a red card, something in your team, to the point that a guy that you had isn't going to play at all, you know, and you need to replace him in a 1-for-1. I just really don't super highly recommend super tinkering to get your team where you think it needs to be from game week 1 to game week 2. So that's our little lesson. I hope that made sense. Patience is a virtue. On to looking at this past week, the Boone squad, 65 points to end game week 1, and I feel great about that. Honestly, I've seen people that I, you know, have a lot of respect for, Twitter players, YouTubers, whatever, not do quite as well as that. So I will more than take 65 points, especially because, again, I feel good about the assets that I have going forward. It's good enough to put me at an overall rank of 1.7 million, maybe 1.8 million if you want to kind of floor, think of it that way. I'm so glad. Total players, this is huge. I was like on Twitter asking for this. Out of 10 million. So yeah, top 1.8 million out of 10.4 million players. That's like that's a good percentile. I'm happy with that. Breaking down the individual players and their performances. Jordan Pickford, it was a bummer. I mean, Leeds are back. It was a penalty. He went the right way. Again, I was listening to the game real time. I ended up watching the highlights later. Pickford's a good goalie. He did end up going the right way. Ended the game on only 2 saves, which is disappointing. I forget how many it takes to, you know, hit save points there. But I don't think it's too much more than 2, 3 or 4, something like that, and you start getting points for saves. Again, like I was saying last week, sometimes goalies on teams that are expected to have a lot of shots coming in, particularly good goalies like Pickford, can be strong assets at the goalkeeper position. Sanchez was a popular pick, and he did very well for Chelsea. Again, I've had my doubts about Chelsea. Keep a clean sheet, but also get clean sheeted. Can you say that? Is that football cliches? Do we approve of clean sheet as a verb? Keep a shutout, get shut out. Let's say that. So if you went for Sanchez, hats off to you. Again, I'm not, you know, if itchy trigger finger transfers are to be advised against, it's certainly most true of goalkeepers. Again, unless, even if a goalie gets like a red card or an injury, if your backup is good enough, I would probably recommend going with that backup before making a goalkeeper transfer if you don't need to. But that's just me. So I've got Pickford, Dubravka. Again, as we'll see in a second, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes next week. But yeah, only the 2 points for Pickford. Bit disappointing. Diouf in defense, again, it was a tough one for my Hammers. Very disappointing. Only 1 point. He got all 90 minutes, but the goals conceded did West Ham in. He honestly, I watched this whole game, depressing as it was. I think he came closest to scoring out of any West Ham player. He had a shot cleared, not even by the goalie, cleared off, not quite off the line, but blocked, not far out from goal by a Sunderland defender. He was getting up. He was looking for those sorts of shots. In addition to, you know, putting crosses and things like that, I feel really good about Malik Diouf, El Hadji Malik Diouf. I feel really good about him. I'm excited for him here. Let me, even for my YouTubers, let me put myself on the other side here. So that was exciting. Again, not the points return I want game week 1, but a player that I feel good about going forward. Obviously, Chelsea is going to be interesting this coming week in terms of the goals that they could score. Hopefully, Diouf is getting involved on the attack and return side. Everton's James Tarkowski is on for 4 points. Again, didn't keep the clean sheet, but played all 90 minutes and did get 2 points on defensive contributions. So it's a brave new world that we're in here. 15 defensive contributions. Now, as we're thinking about this going into the season, I'm going to try to find a way. I think, again, all that matters is if you're a defender, did you go above 10? If you're a midfielder, did you go above 12? So my limited stats experience from university, I don't think it's going to be useful to look at like average defensive contributions, and I hope there's some lawn mowing going on outside here with the apartment complex. I really hope that's not too loud. My apologies if that's making its way into the recording here. Average defensive contributions aren't going to be useful. It's a binary variable. I think we're going to want to look at median instead of mean here. So if your median is above 10, that is to say, if you have more appearances than not, where you're clocking 10 or more, that's, are you scoring the 2 points or are you not? It doesn't, again, I mean, I think Virgil van Dijk had something like 20 or something defensive contributions. Everyone's arguing about what we should call them, DEFCONs. I'm gonna throw in Contras just to be aggravating. It's the stupidest possible abbreviation we could come up with for it, but I kind of want to see Contras come into the parlance here, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so anyway, Tarkowski does hit. We'll see how often he hits and how that goes. If you had Van Dijk, props to you. But it's definitely interesting to see that. Konsa, I was a little upset that they didn't. I was like confused. I was like, when are they actually going to put his red card in? I saw he was on 3 points, and I'm like, Jesus, 3 points, and then he got a red card. Turns out the 3 points was his final score after the red card was accounted for. I haven't watched this game. I know it's a 0-0 draw. I want to go back and watch this game all the way through just to see, and I'm going to try to do that at some point this week. Just because highlights I don't think are going to do much for you. Like watching the Spurs highlights and seeing the Richarlison goal, that's fun. I know 3-0 with, again, 2 Kudus assists. So I'm like, that's really all I needed. I feel good about that. But Villa Newcastle going 0-0, I kind of want to watch that. See, how did Watkins do? How did the Newcastle defense look? Who's up front? Who's feeding who? How, that's whatever this says about my sicko brain. That's kind of the one I want to break down. So Konsa, for someone who got a red card, 3 points, I will take that every day of the week. Like, don't get a red card, brother. But the fact that the clean sheet was already locked in, the 60-plus minutes were already locked in, when he got sent off, I'll take that. He's already out of my team. He's my transfer out, so, we'll live with that. Pedro Porro, 6 points for Spurs, 3-0 win over Burnley. Got all 90 minutes plus a clean sheet. Porro, if he's in your team, he's in your team for the attacking returns, and it's going to be interesting to see how Spurs Man City goes this week. I mean, spoiler alert, I'm starting Porro because I have no bench options, which is an interesting decision that I've made going into the season. But he's performed well, certainly last year. People talk about it was like a 4-0 Spurs win, and Porro did get an attacking return. I didn't quite see how close he got in terms of defensive contributions. He had 4. Okay, so not super crazy anything. But certainly interesting. He's a defender. Again, the Thomas Frank experience is going to be fun, going to be interesting, and I'm excited to see how he does. But 6 points from a Spurs defender, I'll take that every day of the week. Again, yeah, it's a 4-4-2 that we're going for. Let me know in the comments what's your. I meant to say this earlier. Let me know, how's your week? Again, off the field, on the field, FPL wise, whatever. How's your team looking? How's your points going? If you're on YouTube, leave a comment. I'm thinking of starting a Twitter specifically right now. I just use my own Twitter account. I'm thinking of starting one separate exclusively for Squad Talk. So let me know if that's something you want to see. Or reach out again. Go for the email, squadtalkfpl@gmail.com. That's my backline. Midfield, Vice Captain Salah. Again, points not doubled because my captain played. So just there as a backup. 8 points, again, that goal lifting my spirits on a kind of gloomy Friday afternoon, even though it was very sunny. It was dreary in our hearts until Mo Salah came in and saved the day, so feeling great about that. No doubts about him going forward. Very excited that he is in my team. Bruno Fernandes, only the 2 points. Again, I listened to the Man U Arsenal game. Also, I said last week, I listened back to the episode, and for whatever, I didn't even catch myself, somehow, some way said that Bruno played for Man City, which is disgusting. So forgive me. I apologize. Bruno Fernandes. So listening to the Man U game, I literally, my biggest takeaway was Manchester United outplayed Arsenal for 90 minutes and lost 1-0, which just feels like the most Arsenal game to ever take place and the most Man U game to ever take place. Like it was written. It had to be that way, so glad that some things never change. obviously I'm sticking with Bruno. I still believe in him. He was certainly involved in things, and so a shame that there were no attacking returns there. But hopefully going forward, things are looking good for him, and certainly still interested to see how things move forward for Man U. It was very interesting to see Mason Mount in that kind of false nine role leading the line, and it didn't sound like he had a terrible game in that role either. But obviously Benjamin Šeško is going to be kind of the striker, I assume, going forward, and Højlund sounds like he's on the out. Xerxes, Dutchman, had a good week, has done well in the past, so it'll be interesting to see how he factors in going forward for Amorim. But yeah, blank for Bruno, unfortunately, and we'll see how things go going forward. Mo Kudus, I am loving life. 2 assists on debut, plus a clean sheet, even got into the bonus points. 10 points for the former West Ham man in his maiden appearance in the Premier League for Tottenham Hotspur. I feel great. He's cheap. He's, I think, gonna continue to do well. I really felt like he was overlooked going into the season. I mean, it's honestly, it's the Reinders question, except for the fact that Kudus does have Premier League experience, why I felt so good about him and why I do feel good about him going forward. I don't think he's nearly the minutes risk that any Manchester City asset is going to be other than Haaland. So I feel great. I think Kudus did well, and I'm excited about him going forward. West Ham's Lucas Paquetá, not only was it a disappointing game for our Hammers, it did feel like a sleepy game for Paquetá. So that is concerning. Just the 2 points for playing 90 minutes. I don't know. He's probably the biggest kind of chopping block name for me. It did hurt to see Declan Rice get the assist on the corner that he did, again, in that Arsenal game, knowing that he had been in my squad leading up to the season. Everyone's going to have that one player that they were looking at that was in their drafts that ended up not making the final cut that's going to score. I always joke when I would play more NFL fantasy football with friends that whoever was in my team last week that I have cut is guaranteed to perform in the next week, and that proved true more often than I would like it to have. So I don't really have the means to move off of Paquetá right now. I know it wasn't really down to him or Rice, but if Rice keeps performing, or you look at Anderson at Nottingham Forest, that sort of mid-range midfielder bracket is one that I'm definitely going to be keeping my eyes on. And if Paquetá keeps having kind of sleepy games and not really factoring in too much, then he's probably the biggest name on my chopping block in terms of transfers that I would want to make. And then on the front line, Evan Nilsson, only the 1 point, right, he got a yellow card. Did play all 90 minutes. Listen, it was a 4-2 game. Semenyo gets both goals for Bournemouth, but I still feel good about Evan Nilsson. I especially feel good about Bournemouth's fixtures in the coming weeks moving forward. So obviously he's here to stay, and I'm still feeling good about his potential, about his possibilities, about the Bournemouth attack as a whole. Again, scoring 2 goals against the defending champions Liverpool. And again, to be fair, that also may speak to what the Liverpool defense might look like. If you score 4 goals in a game, then you can afford to concede 2, but that might mean that Liverpool are a little more up and down the field this year and a little more trigger happy in terms of the goals coming in and going out. So 1 point from Evan Nilsson, but feel good about him going forward. And then, captain, my captain, Erling Haaland, 72 minutes, 2 goals, 3 bonus points. Enough said. 13 points, double it for 26 with the captain's armband. I think I even said this explicitly in the last week, but my thinking has come to be, I was even explaining this to my mom, who listens, and I thank her so much, but she doesn't understand anything about FPL. And listen, if I can make this podcast appealing to people who don't play FPL, don't understand any of it, if they can still enjoy it, maternal connection or not, then I'm more than happy. So I felt like going in, the 3 big premiums were Salah, Haaland, and Palmer. And there was really only, just with the way the budget works, you were only going to be able to pick like 2 of those guys max. A lot of people went the Salah Palmer route. And again, it's only 1 week. If you have Palmer in your team, don't sell him to get Haaland. Like, that's a terrible idea. He's about to play West Ham. I know he's on a slump dating back to like the end of last season in the Premier League. Obviously, he's performed, had the Club World Cup and all that. So like, we'll see. I would highly recommend against cutting Palmer from your team just on the back of that one performance. He's a phenomenal asset. I love him. I just have my doubts about Chelsea, but I think he's an excellent player. And if I could have him on my team, absolutely would love to. No, I wouldn't recommend cutting Palmer at all. I'm just glad I picked the Salah Haaland combo. It's only 1 week in, but it's the one that I felt the best about going in. It's the one that I still feel the best about. And to be fair, again, we're already seeing a lot of people seem to be looking for ways to get themselves on that combo as well. So he is probably my captain going into game week 2. We'll take a look at that in a minute. And then subs on the bench. So Dubravka, just again, an easy 2-pointer. So he did get a save point for making 3 saves. He also lost a point for conceding 3 goals. So what are you going to do? Burnley, maybe the bullshit defense football isn't quite what we thought it was going to be. Back up in the Premier League. Interesting to see. Lewis Miley is a bit of a concern as a first bench option, seeing he played a grand total of 7 minutes. I don't know if I necessarily expected him to play more, but I don't think I realized going in that I actually don't. Like, Tuanzebe wasn't even in the Burnley squad. He didn't even factor in on the bench. So that's definitely a little concerning. But to be fair, his ownership is also, or his selection, right? His selection is so low that, like, even if everyone else who selected him transferred him out, I wouldn't see his price dropping just because it's so low to begin with. So at least he's a value hold on the bench there at 4.0 million. And then Marky G didn't play. So we'll see if that's for Sunderland something that changes, or if he starts working his way in off the bench. That'll be interesting to see. But again, they're on the bench for a reason. I did not go for the game week 1 bench boost. I know some people did, and again, that's gonna kind of skew the rankings a little bit. You're gonna have a lot of people higher than you because they played with 15 people instead of 11, and you haven't flipped that switch, hit that button yet. So don't worry too much about the people up in the lofty heights of the top 1% just for that reason. Quick peek at the Squad Talk FPL League. I did get bested by Squad Talk's #1 biggest fan, Johnny Havens, good friend. Looking forward to the draft tonight. 68 points instead of 65 for me, so he bested me by 3 points. He's a legend. Listen, Johnny's phenomenal, and he won our church mini league basically every year that we had it, as long as we were both doing that. So kudos to you. Did go for Palmer, Salah, no Haaland, but had Ekitike, so hats off to that. Gakpo is a crazy choice, but listen, 7 points to 7 points against Sanchez in goal. Also went with DU, so glad that both great minds are thinking alike there. And then obviously Reinders, probably the best of the bunch. 10 points. I know Ekitike scored 11, but Reinders does look like the one probably that most people are getting excited about, has the most potential going forward. Again, it's an up and down, so we'll see how it goes. Anyone who plays for Pep Guardiola at Manchester City, it's always going to be an interesting ride. But hats off to Johnny. He was going to cut me off completely if I didn't mention his team in my mention the top team. Of course, it helps that it's only the two of us. Make sure to join the league if you haven't already. Code is 07HAXP. If you want to jump in there, again, you can jump in any point in the season, and I would be more than happy to shout you out if you're top of the lot on a given week. So, looking ahead to game week 2, I don't really know if there's much that I haven't said yet, but as of right now, the bus team, one of my favorite FPL sayings, the bus team, is you set your team early in the week. Obviously, you look at it again before the deadline passes, but your bus team is sort of your, if I get hit by a bus between Monday and Friday, at least I have a somewhat sensible team to look at when I wake up in the hospital. So that's I've always loved that idea. So right now, the one transfer that I've made, and I even heard FPL General on his 59th minute podcast there advise against doing this. Somebody had a listener question about transferring Konsa out after the red card. Mark advised against making that transfer. Said keep Konsa. He's like, presumably you have someone serviceable on your bench. I don't, and again, that's on me. I think even if I did, I would have made the transfer anyway. I went ahead and moved Konsa out for Bournemouth's Senesi. And if you listen to the preseason, you know that he's someone that I like, that I've already had my eyes on. I probably am best off actually that the red card happened here. I think it's an interesting kind of dynamic. If it wasn't for Konsa getting the red, I wouldn't have had any reason to transfer him out. But Senesi is someone I like, and he has good fixtures coming up. The biggest red flag was just that game week 1 against Liverpool. This coming week, he's home against Wolves. Then they've got Spurs. Then they've got Brighton. Obviously, not the easiest fixtures in the world, but certainly Wolves. I mean, maybe it just speaks to the Manchester City defense, but Wolverhampton Wanderers, Strand Larson was getting involved, but really, I don't think ever threatened too much. So a defense going up against Wolves is going to be doing all right, I think. Early doors looks at the season here. So Senesi ended game week 1 on 2 points from his defensive contributions. Gets 2 points for 90 minutes, +2 for his contros, and then -2 for the 4 goals conceded. So ends up level on 2 points. Be interesting to see if he keeps getting the defensive contributions there, the DCs. But did play a full 90 minutes. He's just, listen, he's a player that I like a lot. So we'll see how he does. But I feel good having him. I feel good having the excuse to bring him in going forward into the season. So it's going to be Pickford in goal right now. Again, there is still a bit of a toss-up between him and Dubravka. Sunderland at home for Burnley and Dubravka, as opposed to Brighton at home for Pickford and Everton. I believe this is going to be, the home opener for, I don't know if British people say that, but that's how we talk in America. It's baseball season, baby. It's going to be then. It's tough for the Red Sox, man. That's its own podcast right there. But so it's going to be a home opener in the new stadium for Everton. That's going to be interesting. Brighton just had the 1 goal. I forget if they were the ones who scored the penalty or not, but it was that 1-1. 1-1 against Fulham, right? With the so it was a first half. I think it was a first half penalty. Well, I don't know what I'm talking about. Listen, we play on vibes. We don't need to watch the games here. We play FPL. So Brighton, Pickford against Brighton could be interesting, again, especially at home, especially in the new stadium. But Dubravka is Dubravka, Sunderland at home. Goalkeeper questions, when you have 2 playing goalkeepers, it's always going to be a huge question, which one do I start? And you're always going to have the 1 or 2 or 10 weeks where you get it wrong and it sucks, you know what I mean? But you have them both. I do like to sort of bright side, like the one golden lining, silver lining, sorry, of having a Hall on your bench, having someone score 10 points as a bench option is, no, you didn't get their points, but you'll still get their price increase, right? So if someone, especially if they're little owned, has a strong performance and you only bench them, like, yes, it sucks, but if the masses do rush in to bring that player in, then at least you'll benefit from the price increase that they'll likely get from that. So I don't know. That's a bit of a silver lining. Doesn't even always come true, but it's something to think about. So goalie is a bit of a toss-up. I have Pickford in the starting lineup right now, but that could certainly change. Back line, it's back 4 again. West Ham's Diouf, Everton's Tarkowski, Senesi from Bournemouth, and then Pedro Porro again. Feeling okay about that. Again, Tarkowski got the defensive contributions, so hoping that he does that again. And again, there's always the header potential anytime there's an Everton corner. My ears do perk up just a little bit to see if Tarkowski's on the end of anything. Again, Diouf, I'm hoping that he can just pick holes in the Chelsea back line more than I'm hoping that West Ham can put something together. Hermansen did not look good in that first West Ham game, so we'll see if Graham Potter goes back to Alphonse Areola as far as the starting goalie there, and if that would do anything to help, if that would do anything better. That goalie was not the only issue with the West Ham defense in that first game, and I definitely had my unhappy moments, some of the decisions that we made. I don't think it was a terrible game. The scoreline was a bit worse than I think it deserved to be, and again, maybe that's just my bias, but Diouf is in for better or for worse. So we got him against Senesi, I've talked about, against Wolves, and then Porro I've already talked about a bit. Again, City is City. They're not going to keep 38 clean sheets, 36 clean sheets. They're not going to keep a clean sheet every week. And I do expect Porro to get involved on the attacking side of things as well. And again, going up against such an attacking side as Manchester City always brings I would imagine, again, it's brand new for all of us, but it would make sense that would bring the opportunity for more defensive contributions as well. Midfield looks the same. Salah still got the vice captain's armband. What are we doing here? Away to Newcastle. Again, the Newcastle defense is what interests me the most right now. I don't see anyone scoring goals for them particularly, so maybe Salah even gets some clean sheet points in here. But going up against Nick Pope in the Newcastle defense, Dan Burn there, Fabian Schär, and the rest of them is always going to be a tall task. Manchester United for Bruno Fernandes, away to Fulham. I feel good about Man U for that. Should be some goals, and I hope Bruno's involved in one of them. Kudus, again for Spurs, away to City. That'll be interesting to see how he does there. Maybe he gets on the score sheet himself. I'm going to manifest that a little bit. And then Paquetá for West Ham against Chelsea again. He's on my chopping block, but he's also on penalties. So if there is any clumsy challenge in the box, he'll be the one to benefit, and that's always attractive for someone who does have other avenues to points as well, assists and the odd open play goal here or there. So we'll see how that goes. And again, maybe Chelsea still can't put their attack together and we just get a clean sheet more by their incompetence than our ability or anything like that. Evan Nilsson against Wolves, I feel phenomenal about up front for Bournemouth at home. Their defense did not look good at all. Again, just allowed 4 goals, admittedly from City. But listen, this Bournemouth team just scored 2 against Liverpool, so I feel good about their attacking chances. I know a lot of people went for Semenyo, and we'll see if he continues to be the man on the score sheet. He popped up in good areas and even had a big chance that he didn't convert. So we'll see if he keeps getting in on all those. But I feel good about Evan Nilsson for now. And then Haaland, my captain. I know Spurs did just keep a clean sheet. Again, that was against Burnley, so make of that what you will. But Vicario's a good goalie. It is a good defense. So we'll see how that goes. And then bench, again, right now it's Dubravka as the goalie, and then the same Miley, Guyu, and Tuanzebe. I'm even actually right now, I'm going to put Guyu first, just on the odd chance that he does play. We'll see how things go. Again, I really don't want to spend a transfer on bench players. I guess my biggest hope right now is that some of my players can start getting price rises, and I will be in a good place when it comes time to wild card again, whether that's game week 8. I picked game week 8 not out of any particular knowledge of the fixtures around that window, but more just because it feels like a good length of time to wait before completely overhauling my team. Haven't really thought too much about my chips yet. I know we do get 2 of each, so it may not be the one for the first half, one for the second half, which is new this season, new to me. So maybe I should be giving them a little more thought than I have been, but nothing really standing out right now. I know there's not going to be likely not going to be any sort of double fixtures to wait for in this first half of the season, so we'll have to think about other optimal situations in which to throw those on the table. That's going to do it for me, folks. Game Week 2 review. I'm very excited that you're here with us, excited that FPL keeps rolling on. Look at me. I'm 49 minutes into the record. I had a bit of a false start because I didn't know what I wanted to say in the intro, so you're probably at a shorter length of time than that, but I really appreciate you sticking along for the ride. Appreciate you being here again. Give a like if you like, a comment if you have thoughts. Make sure you hit subscribe on YouTube or follow on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I would love to get any questions, comments. Like, give me something to talk about here on the show. Tell me how your team looks. Ask for life advice. Ask for travel tips to Boston. I'm here for you guys. So thanks again for watching, for listening. Hope you get out there and win your week.